Okay, here's one that really, we've talked a number of times about when is somebody MMI, when are they PNS, when are they maximally medically improved, the medical decision, when are they permanent and stationary, the administrative decision. Those are the magic terms that allow the carrier to conclude a case and then settle it and make provision for anything in the future. But the active claim stops, and if necessary, a future medical care claim starts. So this is typical. How do you determine MMI PNS with multiple considerations present? Patient's a 52-year-old female who has been employed on a seasonal basis for 4 years as a farm worker with a local packing company. On 2/26/21, she was working in the packing shed, reached up for a cardboard box that was stuck. There's a conveyor that moves in front of her. They're putting packaged products into cardboard boxes and pushing them along the conveyor. She jerked on the box. There was pain in the left shoulder and upper arm. She denied prior shoulder or arm problems on the left side. Initial care was at Pinnacle. Light work, medicine, PT, minimal improvement. MRI showed tendonitis, possible labral tear, as well as possible shoulder derangement. That's the written record we got. So she was scheduled to see an orthopod through Pinnacle, but was sent to us. The patient wasn't really happy with care at Pinnacle, and so we saw the patient and arranged for an orthopod. 6/28 last summer, then she continued to have pain in the left shoulder. She had gotten a steroid shot by the orthopod. 7/19/21, pain in the left shoulder continued. The orthopod recommended arthroscopic surgery. At the same time, she was continuing to do light work, just picking up trash in the packing shed. Surgery was performed in September of last year. Pain continued in the left shoulder, limited range of motion. There was delay in physical therapy because she was referred to a facility in Monterey and was not able to drive. In this case, as a quick aside, perhaps you know that intermediaries get involved sometimes in assigning or arranging for some sort of whatever referral we're requesting, and that is a problem that ends up delaying care, and that happened here. So what's going on? So by November, she was unchanged, persistent pain in the left shoulder, physical therapy had not been rescheduled, but she couldn't get to Monterey. In addition, she complained of persistent throat pain since awakening from surgery, thought originally to be the result maybe of endotracheal tube intubation, but she was talking later about a nerve block, that she had received a nerve block and thought that was really the cause of her throat pain. There was no hoarseness of her voice. She was going to speak to an attorney. By January of this year, she was improving somewhat in the left shoulder, but still had stiffness, diminished range of motion. She had finished 9 of 12 PT visits, not really materially better. And by March, she just wasn't getting any better. She was now some months since surgery. Pain was 7 out of 10 during the day and 9 out of 10 at night, particularly sleeping on the left side. Finished 12 PT visits, continued to be off work because they didn't, we'd taken her off work because, of course, of the surgery. I recommended her going back to light work. She resisted their suggestion, reporting her coworkers were critical of her, and the supervisor was watching her and recording all of her activities. She'd go to break, she'd go to the bathroom. Supposedly this was being recorded somewhere on a diary. A little bit later in March, she was unchanged. Her condition really symptomatically seemed about the same. 6 months since surgery, I was just getting the feeling that nothing was changing no matter what. Some time, being off work didn't seem to help. Therapy hadn't helped. The orthopod didn't have anything more to offer. Then as she and I talked about it, her reluctance to return to work, she didn't have reliable transportation, relied on a family member who was not working. And then she talked about being mistreated by her supervisor and coworkers who questioned the veracity of her complaints. periodically ridiculed her. She went on break to the bathroom, and as mentioned, that was recorded. Then she reported she had a child suffering from depression, and the child, she needed to be present, attend the child during the day. So all these things were going on. She wasn't getting any better. I talked to her, just tried to explain to her in a gentle and somewhat loving way that I appreciated these family situations, but the basis for the decision to work really had to be based on her medical conditions, not circumstances at home or in the workplace, unfortunate as they may be. And this, this kind of issue comes up from time to time. But the thing we have to remember is in work comp, our responsibility is to get people back to work. We don't want to do anything that's going to make them worse, but when there are extenuating circumstances, we need to think about that, but we have difficulty. We just can't use that as a basis for keeping people off work. If she really can't work, needs to be home with the child, then there need to be some social answers to that. And maybe it's getting on, I don't know, unemployment or something, some other option, but work comp disability just doesn't work. And so she returned at the end of March, and I determined that she was MMI PNS and did a PR4. And I put some provision for light work on that. I didn't put the no use of the left upper extremity, but I had some provision for light work. So what's the point of this? The point is that what we need to be doing is watching for when the patient seems to be largely unchanged. And sometimes we have measures of that, and other times we don't. There may be something diagnostically that we can do that will give us some information, but sometimes it's just our gut feeling that the patient just isn't getting any better, isn't likely to get any better. We've really done everything we can reasonably do. Sometimes we'll think about sending them to pain medicine, and I did a little bit on this case, but my sense of it was that this was just going to be protracted and she would go through pain medicine and nothing would change there. And so I chose to declare her MMI, PNS. And sometimes what I'll say to patients is, I get that you don't agree with this. You have the option of talking to your carrier and finding another solution. And don't really go into details about that, but sometimes they can be reassigned to another PTP. They have the option of getting a QME. That, of course, takes a couple of months. But, we just make our best decisions based upon our medical knowledge and our intuition about what's going on. And I don't know, 10 different providers will see this lady, and some may choose to keep her off, and others may not. But that was what I felt. So be willing to use your clinical decision making and your kind of gut sense of a patient. And if you feel that this has just kind of gotten to the end of the line, nothing's likely to change, then I would consider them maximally medically improved, whatever that state is, and make a recommendation for whatever future medical care or permanent restrictions or both, or whatever you think is appropriate, but be willing to call them MMI, PNS, and close the active claim. And then the patient and the carrier can work out whatever is going to happen after that, whether it's going to proceed to settlement or whether another opinion will be sought.
Steve?
Anybody had that problem? Yeah, I'm interested in questions, comments.
Yeah, Steve, Mick Joy.
Yes.
Would there be a consideration for sending her either to a work conditioning, work hardening, functional restoration program, CBT prior to the MMI?
Yeah, that's always an option. One could think about doing that. Work conditioning, those are, there are a few therapists around that do that. And what that is simulating the workplace and trying to build up one's ability to do whatever the mechanical tasks are. And that occasionally works. The problem with that is that's most effective when the employee wants to return to work and the employee and the provider recognize that they're probably not physically ready to do it on some basis, but there's motivation to go back to work. With an employee for whom you get the sense that the motivation to go back to work is minimal, you're going to get through the work conditioning, and then just it's going to be the same situation. So I think that's a great idea, Mickey, but in this case, I don't know that it would be fruitful.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see, there was a question here in chat. Treatment on this back. I wonder if it was, whose chat is this? It's, I can't see the whole message. Let's see, I thought, oh, okay.
Sorry, that was mine a long time
Yeah,
ago.
that was, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. I saw it too late. So anyway. So in any event, determination of MMI, PNS requires consideration of, think about the patient's condition as you see it, the extent and success or lack thereof of treatment provided, consideration of any relevant available personal or other information, and then recognition of regulatory considerations vis-a-vis workers' compensation. We have a somewhat different set of responsibility or different responsibility. Our responsibility is not only to the patient, but to the work comp system. And if we're going to do work comp, we need to recognize that. And work comp asks us if all reasonable care has been provided or offered, and the patient's conditions unlikely to change substantially in the next 12 months. This is in the labor code. Then it's our responsibility to consider somebody PNS. And then when and to what specialist to refer for pain management. I'm sort of hot and cold on this. Pain management, I think, in some number of cases becomes kind of a black hole, and patients get there and a variety of things happen. And in the end, I'm not so sure that much is necessarily accomplished. What I'm most interested to do in cases of pain management is if I think somebody would really benefit from injections, epidural steroid injections, cassette blocks, or something else, then I think the pain management people can be very helpful. But what we should be doing is, if therapy has been appropriate, be sure we do both physical therapy and chiropractic, at least a trial of those, and maybe acupuncture. So we're not just doing with the physical, what the pain management people are going to end up recommending, but go through all that. And then if nothing's working, and if you think you've got a reason to think that there's something that they have to offer, then we refer to pain management. We shouldn't be just dumping patients there that we're frustrated with, or don't seem to be cooperating. So be specific when you're sending them to pain management. In this case, I just didn't feel that was going to be helpful. So in any event, the patient and the carrier in the process of working out, whatever they're going to work out. Any other questions about this? All right, it's 8 o'clock or a minute or two. So thank you for attending. Thank you for your discussion. Continue if you have any questions about cases. Dr. Pricey or myself, always happy to talk. And I've got just a pile of charts that are really interesting cases we'll continue to discuss that have come up from our providers about, and these are all interesting, good questions about handling particular things. So when you have those, let me know, or let Dr. Pricey know.
Dr.
All
Shannon,
right. Yes.
Can I ask you a quick question? I mean, everybody else can leave, but I just missed my unmute before the last case ended. I know you had said that with cases that have future medical care under a stipulation, that if they don't use it within a certain time frame, it kind of closes. Is that also true if the future care allotted is surgery? Because like in that last case, the new carrier didn't want to take over anything that was surgical, but if the patient hadn't used it from the last case, like if it was like 5 or 7 years, how would that be handled?
Yeah, I have been told by a couple of adjusters that if future medical care isn't used within 5 years, then there's the option of the carrier to to terminate, making an administrative termination of that. I will say as a practical matter, if the patient hasn't used it in 5 years, then the likelihood that something happening in the future is, and that it would be related to this claim with future medical care, the likelihood there's a relationship is really pretty low. And at that point, to be honest, I would just, patient comes in, I would be thinking about a new injury event. But some carriers, I've had some that have patients have come back 10 years later and they still honor it or longer. So, you know, different carriers approach this in different ways. Interestingly, I heard from a physician out of state that in, I believe it's Texas, but one of the carriers there says with future medical care, this of course doesn't affect us. They just automatically deny everything and expect the patient to appeal in future medical care. So that's a little harsh. But in California, 5 years, the patient hasn't used it, then there's the possibility the carrier is going to make an administrative close.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks,
Thank
man.
you, thank you. Have a
All
good
right,
one.
all. Any other questions? All right. Have a great day. Stay safe.
Thanks, Dr. Schumann.
Bye.